Herzlich willkommen zurück auf Schalke America. Happy Victory Monday. I'm your host, Richard. Joining me as always, co-host Jack. How are we doing, my man?
Hey, you were eager to get going tonight. You were like halfway into your intro before the title card finished rolling there. Victory Monday, I guess. That's the energy. That's the vibe. But yeah, I love it. I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing very well, my man. We won Derby game, the Kleiner River Derby, the small River Derby, against our rivals Bochum. We're back on track. Muslic is starting to get some things established, so I'm feeling excited about it, Jack. And obviously, some results went our way, and we're fifth in the table. So, how are you? Everything good?
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're talking about derbies and sort of big occasions and whatnot, once again, shout out to the Schalke faithful because the Tifo game has just been wild. The displays in the Nord Curve in the stadium so far this season have been fantastic. Another great one. There you go. There it is. Pretty great. Looked great on TV. Could be a new, sort of Twitter banner at some point, So just anyway, good stuff.
There you go. Well, let's get into the game. Let's get into the rundown for tonight. We are gonna look back real quick to the DFB Pokal. Get your thoughts on it. Get my thoughts on it briefly.
I'd rather not. No.
Or we'll spend maybe like 10 seconds on it. Then we'll look a little bit. Another thing we don't want to talk about: racism. It's reared its ugly head in that Pokal match. We'll talk about a new signing who was involved in the game this past weekend. Get into the match review against Bochum, and then look ahead to Dresden. But as you had mentioned, we'll go back to the Tifo in a second. Pokal, really briefly, what were your thoughts from that match? Briefly.
Ugh. Gross. Look, I think what we had said going into this one is like, look, neither of us are going to pretend that we know much about, fourth division Lokomotiv Leipzig. But the fact is we would want to win that game convincingly and hopefully see, some visible cohesion in terms of some things that Moose was just trying to put together. Don't know to what extent we saw that in that match. Couldn't really get a lot of possession against a fourth division team. It was pretty even in that regard. A lot of shots given up. Took us to the 112th minute to score a goal against a fourth division team. Offensively, and we'll talk about this, I think there's some concerns on the offensive end at the moment. Although those are probably outweighed by the defensive improvements, which we'll get into. But yeah, just not a good match, not a good look, and I'm glad we kind of escaped with the win there because that certainly looked like it could have gone either way for most of that game, and that would not have been a good start to Music's tenure losing that one.
The only saving grace from that weekend and that abysmal performance was that our cousins in the Ruhr Pott also almost lost, and they struggled mightily in their game against a Regional Liga opponent. So you got that going for us, I guess. But yeah, ugly game. I did the live watch along. I was infuriated. I was so infuriated that I stopped the watch along at the 90th minute mark because I'm like, this is BS. Whatever happens, it doesn't matter because it's pathetic performance. And it lived up to that. Luckily, Brian Lasma showed up and got the game winner. And we move on. But overall, not the performance we were all looking for. And unfortunately, unfortunately, another thing that happened in that match is that racism reared its ugly head again, and you can see it in the headlines here. Schalke strongly condemns racist abuse directed at Christopher Antwi-Adjei, and this happened in the 12th, 13th minute, something like that, where it's a simple throw-in, and obviously you see Antwi-Adjei react, and the game just stops for several minutes, probably like 5 minutes. And I even said it live on the watch along. I'm like, it's probably a racist remark that happened there, and sure enough, that's what ended up happening. It's sad. It's 2025. And we're still talking about this stuff, but unfortunately, this is the way it is. And I'm glad Schalke came out strongly to condemn it. Obviously, a lot of fans, our fans, said stuff, but it wasn't only our fans; just German fans in general came out in support of Antwi-Adjei. Bochum came out, former player of theirs, strongly supporting Antwi-Adjei. So it's unfortunate again that this happened, but at least Schalke quickly responded to that, and hopefully they catch the people and they do something of significance to them. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah, not much more to add. Obviously, it's frustrating that things like this continue to happen, not just in Germany, but in other leagues around Europe and around the world. tired of talking about it. And I'm sure, the people that are on the receiving end of it are tired of it happening to them too, to a much greater extent than we're tired of talking about it. So, really frustrating. Hopefully, like you said, they find the people responsible and they can take some appropriate measures to make sure those people aren't back in football stadiums. So,
yeah. To some better news, we did get a new player. It wasn't the player that any of us were necessarily on our radars, but we get Finn Porath from Holstein Kiel, who former teammate of our vice captain, Timo Becker. He comes from Holstein Kiel, as I mentioned, 28-year-old midfielder. Will join us through 2027. It's funny because watching the reactions, I don't know if you saw any of the reactions online about him. People are just like, "This is really this is the signing we got." Obviously, after the weekend, we felt better about it. But I think when this happened, we were just like, "What are we doing here?" It's just like a role player, I guess, in general. But like, what were your thoughts when you first heard this thing? Because I certainly was like, "Who? What?"
I mean, yeah, it's what 5 or 6 years at Holstein Kiel, something like that. I'm not going to claim that there was a big impression made on me either in terms of a lot of name recognition or expecting a lot there. Although we'll talk about the match, but yeah. And certainly aesthetically a little bit of swag in the squad as well. Love the love the blonde tips and everything like that. So and the home jerseys, the home kits this year.
Yeah.
I kind of dig.
All three kits are
they're growing on me. They really are.
They really are. And what else is growing on me? Segue. Myron Muslic. Say what you will offensively about Muslic and what the team has done thus far. The one obvious change, Jack, and it goes obviously as we won. This is a victory Monday. Is defensively, we've actually been night and day better than what we have in the past, even as far as last year when we supposedly had Ben Wonder coming in to stabilize the defense. 0 goals allowed in the first half through the first 4 games of the season, including the Pokal. Last year with Gerards, we gave up a boatload of goals this early on in the season. And so far defensively, that's been a positive for us.
Yeah, I mean, look, 100%. Last season, I'm not going to claim that our offense was spectacular, and it certainly wasn't, the promotion level offense where we had, a 30-plus goal scorer like Simon Dorada, like propelling our offense in that sense. But the primary issue last year was the defense. We allowed 62 goals. I know it was something like that. It was above 60. You're not getting promoted.
No.
If you're allowing 60 goals, like negative 10 goal difference. The offense wasn't the problem. Cologne were promoted, and they had like 1 more goal than we did. They scored 53. I think we scored 52. I mean, you can get promoted, as long as you're competent offensively, as long as you can keep people from scoring 2, 3, 4 goals against you fairly consistently, and that's it's been an issue. It's people they score in bunches against Schalke. So yeah, I mean, while I have concerns about how things are going offensively to some extent at the moment, you have to be pleased. And once again, when this is a DFB Pokal game, it is included in this mix, against the 4th division side. So early days still, but yeah, to your point, not really conceding much more than a goal in any of these matches, really, for the most part, and like it definitely is looking better from that perspective, and it doesn't hurt to have Karius and goal as well.
Yeah. Good evening to everyone else joining us tonight in the chat. See you, Anthony, Joseph, and Eric. Yeah, it is. We're doing the job defensively. Offense is still the issue. I'm glad you mentioned offense because one of our star strikers in our history was in attendance in the game. Klaas-Jan Huntelaar, glad to see he's doing better. He was at the Veltins Arena watching along. How happy you were to see him in the crowd there, Jack. It was good to see. It was a sight for sore eyes, for sure.
He certainly seemed to be enjoying himself, and it was funny. Right as they cut to him, he looked like he was in the middle of eating something, and then somebody came and handed him a beer, and he was like, "Oh yeah." So I mean, hey, great to have him back. And I think that the commentator, made mention of hey, they could certainly use him at the moment, and that was correct. Yeah, for sure. As much as I love Silla and how much he contributed last year and really stepped up to the plate in terms of ROI on one of our largest transfer investments. Looking a little bit lost at the moment out there. So certainly could use that sort of talisman presence at the number 9 position.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you had mentioned it earlier about the Tifo game being strong. Once again, it was strong, and Ruhr Pott, pride of a region, great Tifo once again by the Nordkurve. And we had some people who were in our Discord who were at the game taking pictures of various angles. It was really awesome to see. Obviously, awesome to see live as it was going on. It's just again, it was 2 years or so without the Tifo, and I'm glad it's back because it's one of the staples of Schalke, not only German football but Schalke in particular. And again, as you mentioned, another brilliant Tifo. It really sets the mood for the game. I think that's why we did so well in that first game against Hertha Berlin. I think partly was because of the Tifo. The crowd getting behind the boys, and again starting off the team with a bang with that beautiful Derby edition Tifo there. So good to see.
Yeah, so often when you're playing, FIFA or some of these, or I should say EAFC, whatever it's called these days, games like that, before every match in these games, there's some massive like Tifo display, and you're like, this is like so over the top, like like this doesn't like happen to that extent. But then every once in a while, like Schalke or some other team like pops up with something like this, and you're like, oh, those actually do exist, like from time to time, like executed that well and on that kind of scale. Yeah. So, but once again, super awesome to see. The atmosphere that still exists at the Veltins Arena in the second division is unbelievable, and you hear and the players talk about it themselves, which is awesome.
Yeah, even Choreography, one of the new guys, said like 1,000 people showed up to training. Like I'm not used to that. Like it's a thing, and yeah, you see this in Germany a lot. There's a handful of teams in the Zweite Liga who are known for this kind of stuff, and one of the teams is Dresden, who we play next. But this was a small river derby. Wasn't obviously. It's a little cousin here, Bochum nearby rivals. And looking at the lineups in this one, there's 3 guys that I had keyed out for in the match preview of who to worry about for Bochum. Obviously, Timo Horn, a quality goalkeeper for many, many years. He was for Cologne for a long time, but he has always been a really good goalkeeper. Vogt, their defender, he's been in the Bundesliga for a long time. He's been with this team for a long time. He's been around for a long time. And something, if you had to get by him just to get even a shot on Timo Horn. And so that would be difficult as it is. And then obviously Hoffmann up top. They had another guy who they had just sold to another club, but Hoffmann has been there before. He's been a thorn in our sides for many years. And so those are the 3 guys that kind of the spine right there, if you will, of Bochum. Those are the guys I worried about. There's some other guys here and there like Holtmann, Paslik, former BVB player, Vitek and Strumpf, but those are the guys I keyed out. Anyone else that you keyed out, or were those the main guys you looked at worried?
Yeah, same here. Paslak, Vogt, Horn. Yeah, those are the kind of guys that were staying out to me for sure.
And then our lineup.
And I thought Horn had a good game, by the way. I thought he played very well.
He did. And I think one of my keys to the game, too, was like, if we were going to win, Karius had to match what Horn did or better if we had a chance to win, because Horn was going to be a difficult person to get by, and he proved in this game that he was. Karius did start in this game as he has been. Becker, Katic, and Choreography in the defense. Midfield really hasn't changed. Gantenbeim, Schallenberg, El Fauzi, and Becker, with Karaman, Antwi-Adjei behind Musa Silla. Standard lineup. Good to have Keenan Karaman back in the starting 11. But yeah, pretty solid. Fairly standard for this team. What Muslic has put out so far. This is what we're expecting to see now.
Yeah, pretty much. Not a lot of questions outside of potentially just kind of firming up. If there's any outstanding questions as to whether or not like a Sanchez or something should be one of the starting 3 as opposed to one of the people listed in the 11 here, but outside of that, yeah, I agree. I just the things are we're not happy seeing Gantenbein in the lineup still probably overall, and I think questions. Ethan at Tedesca Time, our old buddy, brought up something interesting on X the other day, and he was basically saying that he feels like in the current shape that Muslic tends to orient the team in possession, that Antwi-Adjei potentially feels a little bit miscast at the moment, being in that winger role. I think that's a little bit premature to say for me to some extent. I mean, just because I feel like, particularly against Hamburg to start the season, I thought he was very strong.
Hertha.
Hertha. Excuse me, the other H team, the other.
We hate.
Excuse me. Thank you for correcting me on that. I thought he had a good showing in that game, like jumps off the screen. And one of his strengths is like getting in behind and receiving the ball in those positions consistently. In addition to getting a lot of crosses in a high defensive work rate. And I just felt like obviously in this game, he didn't have success getting into those areas and seemed to really struggle kind of early in transition moments, but then also just really once again, positionally in the final third and those kind of things. But it's been a mixed bag for me, but somebody to keep an eye on. And I thought that was a fair comment that we want to change up where we're putting him fundamentally. Although it's kind of hard to determine where else that would be, because you're probably not going to slot him into that central midfield role unless he was coming on as like a substitute for like El Fauzi or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't think he'd like supplant either of those guys in that role at the moment. He's not like a true like defensive midfielder. He's not like a true winger. He's just kind of this like gadget guy that's like decent in possession. And like so it's a fair point, I think, and I just something to kind of monitor going forward.
And I think I agree with all those points. And I would play devil's advocate in saying that I think Antwi-Adjei has been, even though he had a bad game, not that great of a game this last game, I think he might have been our best player so far this season. Certainly again the Hertha match, you mentioned that. I thought Kaiserslautern, he was pretty good. He's like the only guy who really was playing well in that game, I thought. And he's been our main set piece guy. He might be just in the starting 11 because of that. He's
throw-ins too.
Throw-ins as well. I think Vitaly Becker is becoming a set piece guy. We're seeing him more and more, especially when Antwi-Adjei steps out, Becker takes over. But yeah, I mean, in this game, he certainly seemed lost. And when the team, we don't know if Silla's going to stay or not. There's rumors that this is going to be his last game this season with Schalke. We'll see how that happens. But like, we still have some guys like Lasma and Hoyland and Remmert guys that could possibly be inserted into this lineup. And he's got Antwi-Adjei is probably going to be the first name you think of that's going to come out, because pretty much everyone else outside of Gantabaum is pretty much locked into the position. And I'm kind of with you with the Sanchez comment. I think I was a little surprised to see Kurashai heading into the match, just because I thought Sanchez didn't do anything to warrant to lose his spot. But I think, and tell me if you disagree, I think Kurashai has added a passing ability, kind of like a Kaminsky, where Sanchez hasn't done that. And he's helped contribute, certainly in the box with his head, but also his passing ability has been remarkably good and both medium range, long range, and short range. So I think it's a good mix to have with Katic and Becker back there, honestly. And I think
he's also like an intentional signing for this window under this regime. So I think that lends into it as more. I mean, not that Sanchez still can't potentially earn a spot or something, but and Becker is, we knew he was coming prior, to this regime to some extent as well. But Katic and Kurashai are purchased by him, so it makes sense that he's getting the run at the moment.
So the game started off really first couple minutes. I thought we did well. Vitaly Becker had this like wonder shot early in the game that forced Timo Horn to make a really good save on. I think better place would have maybe threatened even more, but good save nonetheless. Good shot. And then in the 17th minute, we saw some good passing that ended up to Timo Becker getting a shot from long distance that scared Horn there for a minute. But then the game probably from 10 minutes on, it started seeming like Bochum started taking control a little bit, and they weren't really doing much. It's like they had possession, but the defense was pretty solid. And around the 20th minute or so, the ball goes into the box. It gets cleared out. Play continues on, but players looking around. Finally, the ball stops, and then the players go into the referee like, what's going on here? And you go to replay, and it's a handball by Kurashai in the box, like just on the edge there. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be a penalty. Like, it's hard not to, because it looked like he took a swipe at a Jack. And went to VAR, and sure enough, they gave it a penalty. Could you see it in live action? Because I certainly didn't see it until replay. Did you feel as strongly as the referee that it was a penalty?
It was weird too, because wasn't there like a foul with Silla and another player where he like jumped and went aerial, and they called a foul? It looked like they called a foul on Silla almost, which was like, I thought was obnoxious on that decision to begin with. But there was a delay after that, and I'm like, what are they looking at? Like, is there going to be like is VAR saying there was like something that happened there that they need to take a look at? And then you realize, no, it was earlier, it was on this other thing in the box. I think when you watch it live, there is a noticeable, I mean, when I watched it live, there was a noticeable arm action.
Yeah.
From him, and it didn't look good, but you couldn't really see clearly what transpired. And then, yeah, when you look at the replay, I mean, the ball does make contact with his arm, but the more I watch that, the more I'm like really confused as to what was going on there, because I'm not sure that he was intentionally like batting at the ball, because what looked like it almost happened is that he got sort of like bumped into by the Bochum player and was like thrown off balance. And as he did that, he turned away from El Fayouzi, whoever his teammate that was there that was going for the header. And it looked like he was trying to like bat the defender away that just had made contact with him, or potentially like steady himself from his teammate that he felt was going to be going into him. But however, he missed that. The ball comes in and makes contact with the arm, and it's an unnatural position. So it's another one of those ones. It's not. I don't think it was intentional, even though he did kind of have this weird kind of arm motion that made it look like he was trying to hit the ball away. It didn't look intentional to me upon the further watchings of it. But yeah, probably the correct decision there, and unfortunate.
Yeah, well, though not intentional, it was certainly not natural position that his arms were in, and so that's why they get the penalty. And I'm okay with it. It was on the line. I know some people are probably saying, "Oh, it was out of the box," but like it was on the line, and they're like, "If you're going to give it to the forward in those situations, I'm okay with that, as long as they're consistent about it." And so they gave the penalty. Kevin Volk, the captain, steps up, and I'm like, "Oh God, the guy, one of the endangerment that I pointed out before the game, steps up to the plate and takes a penalty, and Loris Karius makes a huge save. Could the shot have been better? Sure. But Karius still made the save. I mean, last time he faced a penalty, he didn't even move. So made a great save.
Yeah, that's fair.
Kept us in the game. Great save by Karius there. I talked about he had to match or do better than Timo Horn, and that's a great way to do it right there, Jack, on the penalty save.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, to your point, not a particularly good penalty from Vogt. It was, he didn't scuff it, but it wasn't hit with much pace, and it wasn't all the way in the corner. It was kind of in that no man's land zone that I always talk about, and not hit particularly fast. So, but yeah, from Karius' perspective, he still has to go the right direction, or read it if he can, and make the save, and he did. So credit to him. Love it, and great to see how much support and excitement he had from his teammates immediately after that, and in the Veltins arena and everything. And I mean, that's the kind of player where, like, look, obviously, if he somehow restarts his career, like he's going to be going to a better team or something like that. But it's the kind of thing where you're kind of hoping, like, man, like, what if we can get promoted and kind of keep him around? And like moments like that are cool to see from that perspective too, because like you can feel like he's enjoying playing in that in that environment in the Veltins arena with the fan support, making a big play like that. So yeah, I'm invested in this storyline at the moment.
And how cool too was that it was his daughter's first game there. His wife, she brought their daughter to the game. That was her first game, so she got to see that. Well, she's a little young; she's not gonna know about it, but still, it's pretty cool moment for him to know that his daughter was there to make that save. So that's awesome. That's really the highlight of the first half, honestly, because after that moment, really, it was all Bochum. They completely controlled possession the rest of that first half, and it looked pretty pathetic. I mean, I think several of us were talking about in the Discord, like, where was the team that we saw against Hertha Berlin? I thought for sure when they went at home, they were going to have a response and play a lot better, play similar to what they did against Hertha Berlin. And we didn't see that. And it wasn't until stoppage time where, God, who made the pass? I forget who made the pass, but Antwi-Adjei was sprung on a breakaway. And he had a chance against Timo Horn. Timo Horn made a great save on him. You thought, maybe Antwi-Adjei could have done better with that. But still, outside of that, that's all we did in the first half. I thought it was pretty bad half. Minus a score. What were your thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, completely agree. A little bit worrying after that first 10 minutes, and once again, the lack of offensive threat felt very reminiscent of the DFB Pokal match that we had just sat through and kind of suffered through. So that was concerning me again. And of course, you have we have to mention we have Hecking over on the sideline there as well. Emphasis on the King, the legend. So looking sharp in the frames and the glasses too, by the way, you might add. And so not a good half. Not inspiring. Certainly demanded improvement going forward.
We had a little bit of more possession in the first half. Shots were 5-5 each, 2-1 on target for us. But outside of that, it really wasn't much. We had more fouls than they did, and they had a lot. Though we had more possession. Technically, it felt like they were starting to control the game. Coming to the second half, we started out with good possession, like really briefly, and then Bochum kind of took over. But that small time that we did have possession, Gantenbaum had a nice move to get around his defender, set up Silla, but Silla had a weak shot there. But I like the movement by Gantenbaum. anytime he can attack. This season, I think when he's gone up in attack, he's looked fairly competent. Where in the past he's been almost hesitant to do it. I don't know, but I like seeing him do that. And then roughly around the 60th minute or so, Bochum just started taking over, Jack, and they threatened us over and over again. And at what 65th minute, it was a play where Karius, I think, made a save. Timo Becker. So Timo Becker didn't have the greatest of games, right? I think, at least from a passing perspective, he was the worst player on the pitch for Schalke in terms of passing. And this play in particular, he's trying to make this long ball pass Silla or somebody, misses him completely, and it kind of sets up a counterattack movement by Bochum where they shredded our team completely on that right-hand side. Eventually, they get a shot off. Karius has to make this great save. Unfortunately, it falls to Holtman, and he just puts it away, 1-0 like that. And it's like, God, we thought was gonna. I thought it was gonna happen when they started controlling possession, and there, sure enough, after the great save of Karius in the first half, they go and score a goal and take the lead. It's like, man, here we go. What are your thoughts?
There was there's something to be said for a difference between sort of being compact and being lazily compact.
Yeah.
And I felt like in the final third on that sequence, there were just a series of kind of deep shots that we're taking and everything, and we were just kind of sitting in the there were people that were on the periphery of the box or on the edge that had space, and it never felt like we were stepping to try to put any pressure on any of those people in case anything about the ball. And then also likewise, there's people floating off the edge that no one's really paying attention to. And just felt like the energy had dropped there for whatever reason. That a couple shots get deflected. We can't clear it. It gets deflected again. And then the reaction time from, was that Gantenbein again? Or was that El Fauzi? I think it was El Fauzi maybe.
El Fauzi and Gantenbein. They're both in the area, yeah.
Yeah, but the reaction time there was just really slow for whatever reason. So it just felt like we were kind of ball watching a little bit, and possibly if we had been a little bit more alive, something would have happened. Not the best from Karius either, not defending his near post there, but whatever. You said the penalty earlier, and I just need Karius to stop grabbing his body parts after he makes a not great play and pretending that it's because he just got injured, because every time he does that, he scares the shit out of me that he's down with you know what I mean? It's like, when a tennis player hits a bad shot and then they're walking back and adjusting the strings on the rackets, stop it. It's he lets in that goal and then immediately he's touching
also look at the turf all the time. The turf moved.
Yeah, and he may have twinged something when he was trying to get big and spread out there. I grant you that, but I feel like he does that a lot. It scares me. He needs to stop that anyway.
Yes, he does. I agree with that. And you mentioned about the team kind of switching off and ball watching, and I thought they would react to that, and they didn't really for the next several minutes. Again, Bochum continued what they were doing, and in the 70th minute, they looked like they broke past our defense. Luckily, Timo Becker made a nice save defensively. Like I said, Becker, outside of his passing, it was a solid game, but including that defensive play there, but offensively is where he was missing those passes. Regardless, Muslic finally saw, I think what we saw, that the game was looking like Bochum is all Bochum at that point in terms of possession. So he made a change. Brought in Brian Lasma, Yannick Bachmann, and a new man, Finn Porath. And immediately, Jack, that switched the game. We kind of woke up. We needed those bodies. Great timing. We talked about so much in the past with some of our managers about they waited too long, they make the moves too early. That was a really good timing in terms of substitutions because it changed the momentum of the game, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Porath was active. He was noticeable. He was being a nuisance, affecting play. And then, Lasma's been strong to start the season, obviously. I kind of want to talk about him in a minute and what your thoughts are overall. But, I completely agree. It changed the game. We certainly seemed to respond to those fresh bodies. And then from there on out, it was pretty one-way direction, I think, until maybe the very, very end of the game for a little bit, the final minute or couple minutes there. But yeah.
Now I have to highlight this play here in the 74th minute where El Fauzi is going for a loose ball and he's going against Paslak, former Dortmund player, and he shoves him over the boards. Gotta love seeing that. It's a derby already. He's like, you're the other team we don't hate. Get the hell out of here. I love seeing that. That was about highlight to the game up until moments later where we get through the new guys, we created a corner kick, and Vitaly Becker goes out, takes the corner kick. Ball makes his way out to Porath, the new man, and from top of the box, not even one times it, back to the box, deflects off somebody, nobody knows what, and goes into the goal. I'll take it all day, Jack. I don't care how it goes in, as long as it goes in, right? Goes in. Initially, they credited him with the goal, which is like, hey, new man in, he gets a goal. Watch the replay. It looks like Choreography just deflects it enough where it goes into the goal. He ends up getting the credit for the goal. But nonetheless, 1-1 at that point. The new man is involved. All the new players that just came onto the pitch were involved leading up to the play. Love seeing that. That's if you're Muslic, you're like, see, I know what I'm doing here.
Based on the kind of position he took that from and how that shot looked, I was like, is that Mehmet Şenaydın out there? I mean, like, look, I'm just saying, like he was a guy that would just pull the trigger sometimes from deep, and usually like wouldn't sky, like it would be like low, hit hard, like on frame, and sometimes would. And that's the thing we talk about every once in a while, just like put it in the mixer, man, like see what happens. And he struck that beautifully, and I don't know how intentional that was from Kershaw, like in terms of like an intentional redirection. It didn't really look like much on the replay from me. But as you said, it was on target to begin with, I think. And then just, nothing Horn can do there. Can't blame him for that redirection. But yeah, a little bit fortunate on the goal, but it came after a good spell of pressure and pretty sweet connection from the new signing.
Choreography must have played the lottery or should play the lottery after the game, because not only did he get a handball that did not result in a penalty goal, and then he gets a goal to tie the game up there in the second half there. And so love seeing that 1-1, but we weren't done just yet. Moments later, a ball gets played over the top where, I don't know if it was I think it was Timo Horn looking for Sissoko, and offsides. Katic, heads up player, immediately puts the ball down and plays it immediately to Fauzi. Fauzi over the top with a brilliant pass to Brian Lasma, who just came on. Lasma taking on his guy one-on-one. This is all we ask about Brian Lasma. Take on your men one-on-one because you have some skill, you have some pace. Takes on his defender, and I don't know if it was Volk or one of the other defenders. Cuts inside and then shoots back the way he came against the grain. Past Timo Horn on the near post. Great goal. The new football god, Brian Lasma, after getting the winner in the Pokal, gets the winner in this game. Love seeing that for Brian Lasma. Obviously, he's had a struggle of a career thus far, but love him coming up clutch yet again.
I mean, what are the things we talk about with him sometimes? Like decision making, inconsistent touch, things of that nature. But things we don't talk about him really are like, balance, body control, pace, and, a really good shot. And also, like, kind of had his shooting boots on earlier this season. Like, there's been times where his finishing's been a little bit less accurate. Like earlier this season, like he's just been putting them away when he gets chances. They're on target for the most part. Yeah. It was the camera, I think, was showing Sissoko maybe who had maybe just been offsides or whatever, or whoever that was. So you didn't see what kind of started the play. It kind of cut to it after Lasma was kind of already coming on the ball. On the replay, it looked like Lasma may have been the one who took off running kind of diagonally to kind of extend that run, and then Fauzi saw it and played it. I don't know if it was like either way. I mean, like it was a really, really well played ball by Fauzi, actually, like great weight on it and everything. But like it looked like if Lasma took off and kind of called for that and invited that, I mean, fantastic play from both of them. And then, like you said, just cuts inside, no chance, decisive, hits it low with power to the corner. And Silla's over there on the other side. Just like, don't need me, I guess. There you go. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I'm glad that he celebrated the goal too and everything. But yeah, hey, 2 quick goals in the space of like 5 minutes. Yeah. Completely turned the match around. And happy for Lasma because he was a guy that has shown very few, but like strong flashes and just no consistency. But a pretty good stretch of consistent, like cameo appearances and whatnot to start the season here. So good stuff. Happy for him.
And I'm also happy that the team didn't, get on the back foot and invite pressure for the rest of the game. They kept going at it. They forced Timo Horn to make a triple save late in the game where not only Karaman, but Lasma and Silla were all stuffed by Timo Horn there, like in the 88th, 90th minute or so. We win 2-1, Jack. Win the River Derby. These derbies are always ugly. I'm going to pat myself on the back because in the preview I said it was going to be an ugly game. I thought we were going to play better than we had previously, and I thought we'd win 2-1, and sure enough, that all happened. But happy for Brian Lasma, as you mentioned, happy that we won, and kind of what we talked about earlier is that defensively, we have at least an identity defensively. Offensively, we need to figure it out. So but it's a final third that's struggling. But defensively, so far, we're bending but not breaking. And you mentioned that at the end of last year that one of the signings of the season for the future could be Karius. If he continues to make saves and not cost us games, he could be something crucial with the defense that we're playing in front of him. So happy with the game overall. The new man, Porath, he says, it was a special feeling playing my first game for Schalke in the Veltins Arena. I just tried to help the team as best I could. And a little bit with his Lino Templeman hair there, with the bleached blonde there. But overall, love what I saw in the game, Jack. What stood out to you, or what are your takeaways?
Yeah, look, certainly didn't seem like we were headed for this result for a lot of the match. Bad first half, not a great start. To the second half. I mean, like a little bit better, a little bit in the second half, but yeah, I mean, ultimately go down 1-0, and things are not going well. So to turn it around, 2 quick goals in the space of 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it was. Great to see that in front of the home support. So not a convincing win, fundamentally overall, but still managed to turn it around, score a couple goals, despite the offensive struggles. And hey, these are the kind of results that you're going to need to grind out over the course of the season. Who knows where we're going to be fundamentally this year and what kind of what part of the table we're going to be fighting in. But once again, if we do happen to have a good year and we are kind of at the right end of things at the end of the season, these are the kind of results you're going to look at and be like, needed that to happen. And these are the kind of things we weren't getting last year. These are the kind of things where, like first half clean sheets for us, right? Like how often do we go down early in games? Like, like last season. And so the fact that we can be in games at least, at the start of the second half is a good feeling.
Didn't we go down 3-0 to Bochum last year in the first half or something? So one of the teams, it was like that last year.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Not to do that this year so far has been really great. My 4 takeaways of the game. Well, no, I'm not even get to that. Who was your man of the match? Because I had my man of the match. I'll tell you my man of the match if you tell me yours, and then I'll tell you who won according to Schalke. But who was your man of the match based on what you saw?
This is a tough one for me. I would say, you could give it to Lasma just because of the impact he made when he came on afterwards. But for me, I'm going to go El Fayouzi. And you may give it to one of the defenders or something like that. We'll see what you say. I don't know. I'm interested to see what you say. But for me, I'm going to go El Fayouzi. I thought he was a nuisance, as he usually is. He was great in transition moments, had some really well-weighted balls, not just the one on Lasma, but there was 1 or 2 other ones that throughout the course of the match that kind of jumped off the screen a little bit. Super nifty player, for a third division signing. So a little bit inconsistent start season as you would expect, but another strong performance from him overall in this one.
I think he's becoming a key partner for Schallenberg, a good compliment. He needs to do a little bit better in defensive work, but yeah, I agree with everything you said there. No, I did not pick a defensive player. I considered it. I considered Karius because of the penalty save and overall decent game. I picked Brian Lasman just because, again, second game in a row he came up. It was a game winner. Instant impact when he came onto the pitch. It's everything we've talked about, what we wanted to see from Brian Lasman. He's doing at least in recent history, and so love seeing that. So I gave it to him. I think Alfauzi, maybe Vitaly Becker, Karius, and Lasman were all the 4 candidates that Schalke put out there. And according to Schalke's on Twitter, it was Karius with the man of the match. He won there. And not only that he won man of the match, according to the fans, he made it to the kicker best 11, which is nice to see at least one Schalke player there. And with the penalty save, he gets booted on there. So good for him. It's obviously been a hard, long struggle for him. So good to have him playing some good football at the moment. So love seeing that.
I feel like he was on that starting 11 just because he saved the penalty. And I think given how not great the penalty was, that's a little bit undeserved. But we'll take it. Still to save it. And look, I think it's just important to have an experienced figure back there that commands respect and honestly has a little bit of aura. If we're gonna use that term, which no disrespect to Hackerin, but he doesn't have that at all. And Karius is a guy that people I think look to as a professional and someone who's been there and played at a high level, and they want to have their shit together around him probably. And he has no problem barking orders at people and getting the defense organized. So, love it.
This game was important because not only was it a derby, right? It was 11th versus 12th place, so it was a team that's a rival to us, and it's a difficult stretch we have. We got Dart Dresden coming up, but currently we sit 3 points off the top of the table, Jack. 3 points. It's still early days. Hanover has a top spot, and then a lot of the results went our way, and so we're just 1 point behind second place. But look at they're in 10th place, Dynamo Dresden. They're not terrible this year. 1 win and 2 losses. It's going to be at Dresden, which is I think is at Dresden. If it is, it's one of the most difficult places to play in German football. Period. Um, they do good tifos as well, so it should be interesting to see how that all comes out. How much of our home away crowd will go because they have great turnouts at their park. But it's going to be a difficult game, Jack. I think new boys, the newly promoted boys, coming up, and they've looked like they belong thus far this season so far.
Yeah, we'll see. Should be a good one, like you said. As far as the defense goes, one of the leakier defenses so far this season. So hopefully that trend continues and we can kickstart our offense a little bit, or maybe look a little bit more lively, a little bit more like we did against Hertha in the first match in terms of how fluid and connected things were outside of just scoring goals. Once again, it's not always about what the scoreline is. It's like what's the performance look like, and so hopefully a little bit more in that direction. We'll see how it goes.
The results have been seems feisty, right? They had a 3-2 loss against Greuther Fürth and then lost to Magdeburg 2-1. But then Arminia Bielefeld, who was on this great streak to start the season, had 2 impressive wins to begin. They beat them, so knocked them off their pedestal there. So yeah, it'll be an interesting game, no doubt about it. Curious to see how we respond, and guys like Brian Lasses, no doubt has been someone Muslic has been keeping an eye on. Muslic has mentioned that if something happens where we lose Silla, I'm going to rely on a guy like Lasma. He likes what he's seen from Lasma this so far in preseason, and now will he get some kind of reward for the last couple of games to start? Maybe not. It could be a super sub role. Who knows? But we've seen Muslic reward guys who played well, like Kudacek. Kudacek got the start in his last game because of good performance. So we'll see how it happens. But another a better game than what we had just played now. Solid defensively. You can figure it out offensively. I think those are the keys for the game, and we'll see what happens, Jack.
You think there's a chance that we see like Lasma up top and Silla gets moved out to the wing?
If he's still on the team, that would be
or vice versa, even, or maybe like we keep Silla centrally and put Lasma there to maybe stretch things a little bit more, and I don't know, be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. The market closes here in a few days, a handful of days, so we'll see if Silla's still here. If he's still here, then we'll see how that goes. And don't forget, Ba is coming back too. Eventually he'll be back into the mix in terms of who starts and stuff. So be curious to see how that goes. That's all really I got. I was going to say I did do the live watch along for the Pokal match, and for the early games, we'll try to do some maybe live watch alongs again. Not this weekend. I'll be out of town this weekend, but for the most part, we'll try what we can. Sprinkle a little bit more of those this year than we did last year. So we'll see how that goes. But any final closing thoughts here before we get out of here, Jack?
Nah, let's get out of here, man.
I'm with you. Where can our followers find you on social media?
At JMMangan, JMMangan on X/Twitter.
You can follow me at R_KHARMAN on Twitter and all across social media. But more importantly, follow us at Schalke America all across social media. For those watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick, and anywhere else, or listen to the podcast later on, thank you again for supporting us. Join the Discord if you haven't done so already. And everyone in the chat tonight, good to see you. And Glukov, happy Victory Monday to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. It's next game's not till Sunday, early Sunday morning. So get some rest. Enjoy the nice weather, at least in the States here. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Glukov.